Hi, and welcome back to my channel. It's been incredibly hot here the last couple of weeks, and it's going to be hot for the next week or two. July, obviously the hottest week of the year, no matter where you live. And well, maybe not in the Southern Hemisphere, but here in the States, definitely. And it's super, super hot here in the Nevada desert. And so I really haven't done much outside lately. And I haven't been doing much inside it lately either. I've had the air conditioning going and it's just keeping the edge off. I don't have central air. This is an older home. It was never installed. I didn't install it when I moved in. It's not something I really like. I don't like that cold feeling of constant cold air that comes with the central air, but it's something I may consider down the road. But in the meantime, I have several air conditioning units going full blast throughout the day, and not looking forward to my electric bill next month. However, I thought it would be fun to make something cool and refreshing and to share it with you out there in YouTube land. I have a collection of vintage and antique cookbooks. It's not a huge collection. When I first started going to antique and collectible stores in earnest, I really wasn't collecting anything in particular. I would just go in, browse around, and pick up anything that just looked attractive to me, appealed to me. And people would ask me, well, what do you collect? And I'd say, nothing really. Well, eventually I did start to collect a couple of different things. I started collecting glass. I have some nice vintage glassware and glass pitchers, you know, the old Anchor Hocking type pitchers. So not a huge collection, but I pick out the ones that I really like. And then I started collecting antique and vintage cookbooks. I think they're a wonderful window into our past. The oldest one that I have, I would have to go back and look, but I believe it was published in 1913. The one I'm going to share with you today, it's Helen Corbitt's cookbook. I believe this was her first cookbook. She had 2 or 3 at least. I have another one that I actually just happened to pick up last week while I was out shopping. And this one was first published in 1957. Helen Corbitt was a food writer based in Houston, Texas, and according to her foreword, she had quite the career when it came to food. Eventually, she became an instructor in foods and catering and restaurant management in Houston. And she also worked at the Houston Country Club. So those are just a few of the things that she did in over her career. This is her first cookbook, and the recipe that I'm going to share with you today is fresh strawberry pie. You can either make individual tarts or you can make pie. I've chosen to make pie, so let's get started. Okay, and here's everything that I have that's laid out and ready to go. I'm going to put the recipe down in the description along with all the measurements, including the dry weight measurements for those of you who prefer to measure your ingredients that way. So this particular recipe for fresh strawberry pie calls for an 8-ounce package of cream cheese. I've chosen the luscious cheese, which is a little bit less fat, but either way, depending on your preference. It's already softened. I took it out of the refrigerator a little while ago so it would soften up nicely. And there we have it. Just scrape it right in there. All right. And the next ingredient is half a cup of granulated sugar. The recipe also calls for 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm going to use my lovely little vintage juicer here, and I've already cut up my lemon. Okay, there's one. Probably going to have a little bit more than I actually need. That's okay. 1 tablespoon. And 2 tablespoons. Oh, that was almost all of it. And it also calls for a teaspoon of grated lemon rind. That is about a teaspoon. So I'm just going to plop that right in there. And then it also calls for 2 tablespoons of either cream or milk. I'm using 1% milk. You can use whole milk. You can use 2% if you're into nut milks. Although if you're using cream cheese, I don't know why you'd bother with a nut milk, but whatever you prefer, just go ahead and put that in there. And that's really it for the filling, except for the strawberries. And it says mix the cream cheese, sugar, lemon juice, rind, cream, or milk until it's got a whipped cream consistency. You could use a KitchenAid mixer, you know, one of those standing mixers. You could use a hand mixer, or even a whisk. Right now, started out with a wooden spoon, but I'm going to move on to a whisk. Just didn't feel like getting out another piece of equipment. So, there we go. Looks pretty smooth. So I'm ready, I think, to put it into my pie crust. Now, I was planning on cheating and buying a frozen pie crust, but I couldn't find any when I went to the grocery store yesterday, and I didn't feel like going to multiple grocery stores just for a frozen pie crust, and I really didn't feel like doing it completely from scratch. So I cheated a little bit and I used the Jiffy pie crust mix. I'd never used Jiffy before, but I think it came out pretty well. I tend to have a problem with my edges. Jiffy's been around since 1930, so it is a vintage product. I went ahead, made the dough, pre-baked the crust in my oven, and it's ready to fill here. I'm just gonna go ahead and scoop that in there. Make sure I get it all. I don't bake nearly as much as I did when my kids were growing up, because, you know, I used to have more people around to eat this stuff, and I'm trying not to gorge on lots of goodies, because if no one else is around to eat them, guess who's going to be eating them? So don't bake as much as don't bake nearly as much as I used to. Let's go ahead and smooth that here into the pie crust. You know, you don't have to bake your own pie crust. Like I said, I was planning on using a frozen one, but I couldn't find any at the store. So I did the Jiffy route. However, you could use a pre-made graham cracker crust or even a cookie crust if you prefer. So my pie crust and my filling are ready to go, and I already have my strawberries prepared. The recipe calls for just fresh ripe strawberries, just enough to fill the crust. And I've already washed them and taken out the stems, and I'm going to go ahead and stand them up here with the points. I tried to pick the nicest strawberries out of the package. In total, for the pie filling here, the whole strawberries that you see and the strawberries that I'm going to be using to make a glaze, I used just about an entire 2-pound container of strawberries. Again, I'll put the measurements in the description along with the recipe. So I'd never really heard of Helen Corbitt before I picked up these cookbooks. It'll be interesting to see how this tastes. You know, a lot of these old cookbooks, they really focus on fancy entertaining, something that really isn't as popular as it used to be. You know, the focus is just getting together with your friends, hanging out either in the kitchen or in the backyard at the barbecue. You know, these chapters that a lot of these cookbooks have with canapes and other fancy little doodads, you know, they just really aren't as popular as they used to be. Okay, I think I have a few left over, but that's all that I can fit in there. And I'm going to pop this into the refrigerator to stay cool while I create the strawberry glaze. The next step is to let it stand for 30 minutes, and then we'll be ready to cook it down. See you in a few. Okay, the 30 minutes is up. I took that time to eat a little lunch, and so now I'm going to mix the cornstarch, the 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, into my strawberry and sugar mixture. I'm going to mix that in, and I have it on a just under medium flame. The instructions are telling me to cook until it's thick and clear. I've mashed the strawberries down, as you saw a few minutes ago, but they will continue to break down as they cook. I really love cooking on a gas stove. The last time I had a gas stove was early in my marriage to my ex-husband, and we rented an apartment that had a gas stove. We were in there for several years, and I absolutely loved cooking with gas. But after we moved, and we moved around a number of times throughout our marriage, but I hadn't had a gas stove again until I moved into this house. So really enjoying cooking with gas. It's a lot easier to regulate the temperature and a lot faster to regulate the temperature, rather than waiting for that electric burner to get hot enough or to cool down or whatever. So I'm going to keep cooking this strawberry, cornstarch, and sugar mixture until it becomes clear. I did turn the flame up just a little bit. And I would say that that has a lovely glaze consistency, and it's not going to be obviously fully clear because it's strawberry glaze after all, but it's starting to look the way it should. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heat. The next step will be to strain the glaze. So I'm going to go ahead and do. Just to nice and sticky. Push that down so that the glaze has the opportunity to run out. This will take a few minutes. And here we have the final product. There's the strawberry glaze, certainly a lot nicer than if I had purchased something in a box. And the final step is going to be to ladle it over my pie, get as much in there as evenly as I can. Going to swirl it about here just a little bit, just to even it out a little more. That clunking you might hear in the background is my ice maker. My refrigerator has an ice maker, but the way the kitchen is configured at the moment, I have no way to hook it up. So I have a little, well, it's not really little, but I have a tabletop ice maker, and it does an amazing job of making ice. My friend Marie is a little envious. I think she's going to be getting one herself. And there you have it. The fresh strawberry pie from the Helen Corbitt cookbook. A delicious, cool summer treat. Thanks for joining me on this mini culinary adventure. The fresh strawberry pie from the 1957 Helen Corbitt cookbook. If you don't have any vintage cookbooks in your collection, I encourage you to get some. There's some wonderful old recipes. There's some weird recipes in there too. A friend of mine on Facebook loves to post those really weird vintage recipes, like bananas rolled in ham slices and covered in cheese sauce. That's a real recipe, by the way. But some of these older cookbooks have really delicious recipes that you might want to try for you and your family. I have the pie in the refrigerator right now. I'm not going to eat it all myself. I'm actually going to be driving out to see some friends tomorrow, and I'll be bringing it along to share with them. Thank you for joining me again today here at Pam's Speakeasy. If you like this content, please like the video and please subscribe and say hi to Chester while you're at it. And I do hope to see you on the next video. Thanks so much.